Okay.
First Timothy,
Peter.
First
Peter.
Yeah.
First Peter.
Okay. 11, we're going to do this right. As every man has received a gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracle of God. If any man minister, let him do it as the ability which God giveth, that God is all things that be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. What are some things that you pulled out of those two scriptures about your spiritual gifts and how you're supposed to use them? Were there anything, anybody, anything that you pulled out about spiritual gifts and how you should use them?
Definitely God calls us to share.
Okay. Okay, God causes us to share them. Anything else? To use them, right.
And use them to serve others.
There you go. Use them to serve others. And you realize that there are gifts that are coming from God. It's not that you're doing this, or this is something that you have. This is God. And so as we go through and you're looking at your gifts, again, you're looking at these are gifts that God has given you. Now, you went through and did the spiritual assessment, and it talked about that you came out with 3 top scores. And usually these 3 top scores kind of represent your primary gifts, the ones that even people would be able to recognize in you. Okay. What were your 3 top?
Administration, exhortation and service.
Okay.
Administration, hospitality, and leadership.
Okay, good. Johnny?
Administration, help, and,
what was that? I asked you on the page where it said administration.
your administration, giving and help.
Oh, giving and help. Janice, have you gotten that far? Okay, we'll get back to it. Okay, so okay, so you have those gifts, and now you're going to go through and thank you very much. Yes, yeah, thank you. You're going to start becoming aware of what they are and how they are used. And so the book that you received, this is one from the United Methodist Church, and it's called Discovering Your Spiritual Gifts. We kind of used this last time we did it, and it was, you know, they have an inventory in here, and like I told you, there are a lot of different inventories. And the one that they have in here is very basic and simple one. And we noticed last time when we gave it, you know, people weren't that thrilled with it. So that's why we went back to the one that we've done before that had 30 questions. And like I said, there are some that have 200 questions. It just depends upon the inventory that you're using. But the one that you have is pretty good. And so one of the things I want to draw you to when you go to this book, on page 8, they give you a description about your gifts. And even on your sheet that you had, it gave a very basic description about what your gifts were. So like, I think several of you talked about administration. And in here, it talked about administration is a goal and oriented individual who has strong organizational abilities that make it possible to coordinate resources in order to accomplish tasks as quickly as possible. And you go, okay, yeah, I got that. And so you know, but in here, I kind of like the descriptions in here because it goes a step further. And so they give a description about administration. And they said administrators are natural organizers. They are good with details. They know how to help the members of a group work together to achieve goals. People with this gift often seek or are placed in positions of authority. Nominating committees often consider people with these gifts as their chairs, various other committees within the church. And so it kind of breaks it down a little further. And so you could use this to look at the description of the gifts. Many of the gifts, are listed here. There are a couple that are under different categories. And a lot of times when you go through and you're looking at different inventories, you'll see a lot of different gifts that are listed. But this is is very close to what you were doing. And then, so you could go through and look at this. And then the next sheet that I just want you to pay attention to is, excuse me, if you go over to page 11, it gives you examples of how this gift can be used in the body of the church. And so, like even though it said administrator, like they're organized, they're good at kind of, like leadership positions that can pull ideas together. Then they talk about administrator or / leader as an organized part of like they can organize parts of an annual project, such as Sunday school picnic, or advertising campaign, or some other special church event. So they give you ideas or examples of how that gift can be used in the body of the church. Same thing like if you're looking at helps, if you scored high in that. Ask those in ministry areas that are behind the scene. A lot of times the helper is the behind the scene person, and you need them to make things happen and to work. And so they, many times they volunteer, they might help with filling out paperwork or preparing mailings or preparing crafts. And so it gives you an idea of how this gift can be used in the body of the church. One of the things that I did find though, your spiritual gift can change. Just because what you have now does not mean for the rest of your life that's what you're going to be. Because your gift kind of can go through and change depending on what is happening within your life or where God is using you at that time. And so I look back about 6 years ago. I was an educator. I'm a retired educator. And so like my spiritual gifts usually came out as teaching, leadership, administration, and serving. And usually, and that's how it usually came out. I can go through and do the spiritual gifts now, and usually it will come out as administration, leadership, teaching, and service. They're the same gifts, but just different orders, and it's just how I'm using them right now. And so, keep in mind that you can go through and take a spiritual gift inventory, and it's often suggested that you take it again 3 or 4 years later, because it does kind of change, and it's just how God is kind of placing you in certain positions and how He wants to go through and use you at that time with it. Yes, go on.
I got mine.
Okay, what are yours?
I'm gonna be like Sherry. Administration, leadership, and teaching.
Okay, very good, right. So,
You wanna see all that?
yeah, and I can see that, I saw the administration and leadership in you. Okay, so
Thank you.
Okay, so one thing is that you go through, you pay attention to gifts, and one of the things that we also added on the back of your agenda, I made a list of the ministries, some of the ministries that we had here at Central. The thing about it with our ministries, when you go through and look at our organization and ministries, we have some ministries that are administrative, and many of you came out as administrative leaders. And a lot of times, many of the positions here, especially administrative, such as trustees, SPRC, that's the Staff Parish Relations Committee, Church Council. We have a committee called the Nominations Leadership Development. And they are the one that will go through and nominate the leaders, the chairpersons for these committees. So a lot of times, like with trustees and finance, something like that, it's not one that you just walk up and say, I want to be on finance, or I want to be a trustee. It's, going through a process. But a lot of the other ministries, you can just volunteer. And you can go up and say, I would like to become a member of that ministry. So I made a list of some of them, and I even put down the current chairs. Right now we're getting ready for charge conference, and so some of these leadership positions may change, but still, you can go through and look. So like if you're interested in music, it tells the choirs that we have and the list of them. Prayer ministry, who's over that, hospitality, our youth ministry, Janice is over the youth ministry, right there. So the life group, Shireen is over that. Higher education, the food pantry, Dolores and Malvin, they work with the food pantry that we have. Closed closet minister, Julie was here earlier, work with that. Membership committee, you can see any of us, and we welcome you to come join us. And it just kind of the dance ministry, you have Rashida and Shay, they're members of the dance ministry. So you have a lot of ministries that you don't have to sit back and think that someone's going to come up and say, okay, we want you there. You have the option just to come on and join and become a part of it. And based upon your gifts and where you feel that you can plug yourself in, that is how we would like to see you become. Any questions or anything? And if so, please feel free to, grab me anytime. And just kind of go through that book that you have on discovering spiritual gifts and really become aware of your gifts and really still continue to pray and ask God, how does He want to use me? And what is the